All right. So, Percy Jackson, the season finale. So, before we get to that, I have some more good news about Percy Jackson. So, the newest streaming numbers are out. And by newest, I mean it goes through the third episode of Percy Jackson. So for the top 10 original streaming streaming episodes, streaming TV, Percy Jackson is third with 700 million minutes watched. Now, hopefully that stays because that's obviously better than last week. So hopefully it stays in the top 5 at the very least, if not the top 3, 4, because that improves the chance that it will be renewed. So, with that, let's get to the review. So, let's see if I can remember now where it started. So, Percy is threatening Ares. he's wanting to duel him, and Ares is like, wait, what? It's like, are you stupid? what are you doing? And of course he's by a body of water, so his chances are pretty good. So even Grover and Annabeth are like, wait, what? What are you doing? So he wants to set the rules. We see this interspersed with him fighting Luke, with Luke training him and telling him things like the rules. You establish the rules, blah, blah, blah. So Percy wants to fight Ares. And he even tells Ares that, he doesn't have to listen to Kronos, Well, he tells him that he knows that he's in cahoots with Kronos. And the minute Percy mentions Kronos' names, Ares looks like he shit his pants. He looks super scared. So they fight, and it looks like Percy is going to get his ass handed to him by Ares, which most people would expect, until a tidal wave comes. Now, I thought at first that it was Poseidon, but it wasn't. It was actually Percy, which a part of me was thrilled that Percy's really getting into his own power, and a part of me is like, I was hoping that it would be a father-son bonding experience, but nope. So Ares, basically, that just does him in. The tidal wave. And, like I said, when Percy mentions Kronos, Ares looked like he crapped his pants. And so he says, you've made a enemy for life. And so then he disappears. And so they have to lower their head so they don't see his true form. And I'm actually glad that they kept that part of the Greek myths. And I'll explain in a sec about why I'm glad about that. So Percy ends up with the helm. He goes to this house, which I thought was very bizarre because he acted like it was his house. But I mean, I guess it's possible that the house that they went to was on a lake. I mean, that would make sense, considering Percy is the son of Poseidon. But I don't know, it just seemed very convenient. But maybe that's just happens to be where they ended up. So Percy goes into the house, and Annabeth is carrying the dark helm. They get into the house, and one of Hades' Furies, it is the Furies, right? Yeah, the Furies, seems to still be, not necessarily mocking him, but egging him on. And he's like, yeah, wasn't your quest to get the dark helm? Well, here you go. And I assume that Hades will hold up his end of the bargain. Which both Grover and Annabeth are like, wait, what? What are you doing? So, which of course Hades does. So then it's decided that Percy is going to visit Zeus and give him the Master Bolt in hopes that he can stop this war. Now, this war seems to be between Poseidon and Zeus. So I can only assume that it's because Zeus is so stubborn and keeps insisting that it was his kid that stole the Master Bolt, because otherwise it makes no sense why those two are going at it. But anyway. So he goes to what looks like the same museum that his mother took him, and where he went on his field trip, and he said, I'm here to see Zeus. So they go up to the top floor. Well, it's supposed to be the top floor, but looks more like it was all the way down the other side. But so he goes to visit Zeus, gives him the Master Bolt, assures him he did not steal it. And then he starts talking about Kronos. And how Kronos is coming after him, and basically Zeus is like, yeah, I know all that. And it's like, wait, if you know all that, why the hell are you attacking Poseidon? Because you think Percy stole the Master Bolt, if you know about Kronos. I mean, and it, according to what he tells Poseidon, everybody knows about Kronos. So, again, what is the point? But then again, you could pretty much read any Greek myth and basically ask the same damn thing. So I guess it makes sense. And so Percy pushes things a bit too far, and so Zeus is going to use the Master Bolt to strike down Percy, only to be stopped by Poseidon. So he finally gets to meet Daddy, and so before I continue, the actor who plays Zeus, Lance Reddick, he's the one who, if you watched the first end credit, where it said in loving memory of, he played Zeus, and that is why I'm glad that they kept the part about the Greek myth of not looking at their true form, because that means they can take whatever form they want to. Now, I don't know if Zeus appears in the rest of the books, but this will allow for a recast. Now, whether they would want to go with someone completely different, or someone who looks similar to Lance Reddick, or how they wanted to pursue this, they can do that. So Poseidon yields. He said, fine, I give up. You win. Just don't kill my son. And he's like, it's like, Percy is a hero. And he's like, yeah, he's also forbidden. Yeah, so is Talia. So, and they talk a little ancient Greek, which, nice touch. And, that's where we find out that everybody knows about Kronos, which maybe that's why Hermes didn't want to send Percy towards the underworld. It's not that he wanted to stop the war, but he probably knew about Kronos. And like Luke mentioned later, that he would be a good ally to Kronos. So he was probably like, yeah, I don't want to send Percy Jackson to the lap of Kronos. Maybe that was the reason. So Percy talks a bit to his father, but doesn't call him dad or anything. He does call him sir. He's very reverential, which I think it was more out of fear, because not so much that this is his dad, but he's still a god. And let's face it, he knows nothing about what his demeanor towards Percy would be. And so he asks him, he's like, can I ask you a question? And he assumes that Percy's going to ask him about his mom. And he's like, yeah, Hades will eventually give her back, but maybe not immediately. And he's like, do you dream? It's like, wait, what? Why are you asking me those? Oh, Ares said that gods don't dream. And he's like, you did notice that Ares is an idiot, right? And I just love how they really tried to make them look similar. I mean, the same kind of shirt they're wearing. And so he then asks him, do you dream of my mom? And, it's hard because, let's face it, he's a kid. And of course he wants to believe that mom and dad can get back together and, be a loving family and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if the distress on Poseidon's face was a yes or a no. It could go either way. But the way he touched Percy's face leads me to believe that the answer is no. But he doesn't want to actually say it because, he doesn't want to break the kid's heart. So, he has a pearl in his hand, and he sends Percy back home. So, obviously, gods can do that. I thought it's whomever is holding the pearl is teleported, but no, I guess you can think about it. So maybe that's how Annabeth got out of her predicament. Maybe Percy, when he threw down the pearl, wasn't just thinking of himself, but also Annabeth. So he goes back. He gets thrown back home, and this time he's at the camp. So he gets up, and everybody is applauding him. I don't know if it's just because he completed the quest, he stopped the war, or if he managed to make it back from Mount Olympus alive. Because even Annabeth said, Zeus is going to kill you. And Zeus even said that the only reason he isn't killing him is because of what he said about Kronos. But yet he said he knew about Kronos, so I'm very confused. But maybe it's more of a, oh, so you're not going to become Kronos' lackey. Okay, you can live for now. Maybe that was it. Because later on, Annabeth comes and she hugs Percy. And Percy is again like, wait, what? What's happening? And she said, look at Celeste. And she doesn't look happy. She's the only one not applauding. And so if you think that she's the one who's the bad guy, she's giving you no reason to doubt that. But then they go and talk, her, Percy, and Luke. And Luke is saying, Annabeth's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, keep an eye on Celeste. You guys go talk. Obviously, at some point, Percy and Annabeth got together. Either that or Annabeth figured stuff out and told, either Annabeth figured stuff out and told Percy, or they figured stuff out separately. Because Percy goes with Luke and they talk about the prophecy, and Percy's like, yeah, well, everything the oracle said has come to pass. And so he recites every line of the oracle's prophecy. And he gets to the part where the person who calls you friend will betray you. And so he figured out that Luke was the one who stole the Master Bolt and the Dark Helm, because he figured, number one, Celeste was still free, so that means he never told Chiron. And the reason he never told Chiron is because he's the one who did the stealing. And I'm like, well, if he was smart, he would, blame it on Celeste. But maybe he figured that that wouldn't end well for anybody. So maybe that's why he didn't go ahead and try to frame her. So and then of course he mentions that his shoes almost took them down to Tartarus. And Luke's like, I didn't know you were going to give the shoes immediately to Grover. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, it would have just taken Percy down instead of both him and Grover. Okay, how is that better? So, they fight. Luke has his cool sword which can cut through dimensions, through reality. I'm not sure. But he wants Percy to come with him. He wants to recruit Percy because he thinks Percy is going to help Kronos and himself overtake the gods, because the gods are full of themselves, and that, that the Titans, need to come back. Well, Kronos anyway, has to come back because, things will be better off. That was called the Golden Age, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the Golden Age for who? Who told you that? Because, the guy who's trying to get out of Tartarus, yeah, he would probably, tell you, lies. Now, I can't remember the way the world was during the Titans. So I really can't say whether he's actually being truthful or not. But this is a guy who, ate his children to prevent, at least in the myths, I don't know about in the books, but in the myths, he ate his children because he got a prophecy saying that one of them was going to overthrow him. So, if you're familiar with how Athena was born, yeah, it's basically the same thing. So, Percy's like, thanks, no thanks. And when it looks like Luke is going to put an end to Percy, suddenly something gets thrown at him. And a weapon comes at him. And what do you know? It's Annabeth. And she's like, I heard everything. Which is why I wonder whether this was something that was established between the two of them before they met with Luke, or just so happens they figured it out separately. And so Luke manages to escape. And then you see Percy leaving. Chiron is talking to him about Kronos and Luke. How, maybe you should go home under armed guard. Oh, Hades said he wasn't going to hurt me. I think he was talking about Hades. And he's like, yeah, that's what worries me. Okay. And Mr. D, Dionysus, was shocked at finding out that his name is Percy. Because at the beginning he always called him Peter. And no matter how many times he was told Percy, he kept calling him Peter. So suddenly he's like, wait, your name is Percy? What kind of name is that? I was expecting him to say Perseus. I really was expecting him to say Perseus. I was kind of bummed he didn't say that. That someone didn't point out that Percy is short for Perseus. Because, up on Mount Olympus, that's what Poseidon was calling him. Not Percy. He was calling him Perseus. And so Dionysus is like, okay, all of you who don't plan on staying at the camp, get out. I'm like, oh, what a wonderful camp owner, runner of the camp. I'm not sure. So Percy leaves, and he's like, I have to know if Hades did truly return my mom. So he gets home, and this is where it's like, okay, where does reality start and his dream end or begin, or what have you? Because he sees his mom, they're hugging, and suddenly she says, you have to wake up. He turns, and we see Kronos, or at least we assume it's Kronos, dressed like the Grim Reaper, and basically saying how that his survival will help Kronos, which is pretty ominous. That, this idea that the only way that Kronos will not succeed is if Percy does. So, obviously, we're on book 7, and it's still called Percy Jackson, the Olympian, so I'm going to say he's not dead. Then I saw a bit of the summary of book 7. So, yeah, probably not going to die. Not only is he the main character, his name is in the title of the series. So I'm going to say no, he survives. So, so then we see him actually lying in bed and his mom trying to wake him up. I assume they're back in their apartment. And, I don't know if there was any time jump or what's going on. But there must have been something, because she asked him, that he dreamt of Grandpa. Now, first off, that would be great Grandpa. Because Grandpa would be Zeus. Oh, wait, hold on. No, that would be uncle. Yeah, grandpa. Okay. I'm confused. I know my genealogy. Okay. So, yeah, grandpa. And his mom's like, yeah, don't call him that. Technically not wrong. I mean, even if he's an evil grandpa, he's still grandpa. So, Aaron Terror. So he's like, okay, what did he say this time? So obviously there must have been some sort of a time jump because you know this it seemed like perfectly normal that she now knows that they both now know that what he's been dreaming of was Kronos. And he's like saying something about, saying I love you to mom. And I don't know why he didn't tell her the truth. Maybe because he interprets what Kronos was saying the same way I just did, that the only way to defeat Kronos is for Percy to die. And I mean, obviously you don't want to tell your mom that. But the way it was cut, it's like, is Percy gonna realize that this wasn't just a dream? But then you hear how Sally was talking about it, so no, it's not. So they get ready to go to school. He's starting 7th grade, and we don't know if it's in a different school or if he was reinstated to the school that Chiron was a part of, and Grover. And Annabeth is going to go visit her dad, and we don't know how long it's been since she's seen him, but he's apparently thrilled. He's going to take her to New York City, and so she has to pretend she's never been there, and go to Disney World. And she's like, do you know anything about Disney World? And based on Percy's reaction, she thought, oh my god, what is this place? Because she's like, I think it's like Waterworld, but, less scary, less deadly. And then he's like, just be a kid. So he didn't tell her. I'm surprised. I mean, Disney is not like a new thing. But I guess if she was young enough, maybe she hadn't heard of Disney World or Disneyland. So Grover got his searcher's license, and so he was going to look for Pan. And he's like, okay, all of nature has been checked and double checked and triple checked, so I'm going to check the seas. And Percy's like, yeah, let me know if you need help with that. So it's great that Percy has gotten into his own. He accepts that he can control the seas. And so they all part ways. Like I said, Percy goes back to school. I don't know if he's going back, like I said, to the school he was at where he met Grover, or if they found him a different school. Maybe at this point, because of his mental issues being worked out, in that he now realizes that what he sees is actually freaking real. Maybe they're sending him to a regular school instead of a private school. I don't know. And so then we see Gabe talking to someone after the credits. So if you didn't watch, there's actually a post-credits scene. So we see Gabe going into the apartment. I didn't catch who he was talking to. And the key won't fit in the lock. And he's like, I can't believe it. She changed the locks. Another reason why I think that I'm not sure if this was a time jump or not, because, she was dead. And he never noticed that she'd been gone for, I would assume, longer than she said she was going to be. But he's supposed to be a toxic individual, so maybe he just didn't care because it didn't affect him. I don't know. And so he sees this package. Another reason why I think that, that there wasn't this humongous time jump. Because he finds the package. Return to sender, Percy Jackson from the gods. Now, I can only imagine that if his mom did see it, Percy would have stopped her, saying exactly what it is, that it's Medusa's head. And so Gabe, being unable to restrain himself, even though it's addressed to Percy, he has to see what it is. And talk about curiosity killing the cat. He opens the package, he sees Medusa's head, and he's like, what is this garbage? And the second he says it, he turns to stone. So, bye-bye, Gabe. I know that at the beginning they implied that he was just a piece of trash, but I don't know. It would have been, granted this was a complete accident, but it still would have been nice if we saw more of that, so you would be cheering even more that this happened, because otherwise you're like, oh, that sucks. Let's see if there's anything else to report from this episode that I missed. Now, Percy figuring out that Luke had something to do with, him being, that he was the one to betray him. I was fine with that. I still don't understand how he got from that to Kronos. It still makes zero sense to me, because he's supposed to be in pieces in Tartarus. So it would be one thing for him to go to Zeus and tell him what he knows and say, oh yeah, this is the thing that's happening, but I don't know. It just seemed like it was too much of a stretch to think that Percy could have figured out it was Kronos. Even though he knows the Greek myths, he basically told his dad that his mom taught him ancient Greek. Because Poseidon assumed it was Chiron. It's like, no, actually it wasn't him. So yeah, that's my only gripe with what's been happening lately. It's like, how in the world did you figure out it's Kronos? So, other than that, I think I've covered everything I wanted to this episode. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.